It's eerie is the first word that comes to mind. Today was more so. It's a Tuesday. 9/11 was on a Tuesday. It was that clear, cold day, or clear and cool day, not cold. A lot of the things were similar today, so there was that feeling in the air. I went down to the cathedral this morning. Went and saw the firefighters doing the stair climb today. So it brings back those memories. I take time. I talk to some of my friends across the country, and here in Sacramento, a lot of guys have retired that I deployed with on that day. So a lot of memories come back. I lost a friend, a guy that I taught with a lot, a New York City firefighter that day, and he's always in my thoughts and prayers, but he definitely comes to the forefront on these days, and the days leading up to it as well. And you think about the families too. A friend of mine said it really good this morning, that we left to go help in New York City, but our left behind was our wives and our children, and our wives took care of the home so we could go do what we do as rescuers, be professional rescuers.
Yeah.
So you think about that too.
Right. You mentioned the stair climb. Was it something that the media, that we got this morning? What it was an event?
It was an event this morning. The firefighters climb 110 stories at 801 K Street here in Sacramento. So that would be to the top of the World Trade Center in either tower. And they start in the morning, and they have a moment of silence, an invocation, and then they climb with each of the 343 firefighters that was lost. They carry their names to the top.
And did you participated in that? Or?
I have in the past. This year anymore. Work schedule and physical fitness. Those young firefighters are a lot faster than I am.
Yeah. And they've been doing this since 1 year after?
Right after 9/11 it started. I don't remember if it was. It wasn't, in 01, but I think it started in 02.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. And if you can just take me back to the day when you found out that you were headed to New York.
So I was on a roster. The Sacramento has had a USAR team since they formalized USAR in the country. There was the original 25 teams, and now there's 28 teams. And I was rostered for the month to go to anything like Oklahoma City, an earthquake, a natural disaster like we're seeing right now with the hurricanes Olivia and Florence. So I was on the team, rostered. I knew I was rostered, and I was actually down in Santa Cruz when this all started to unfold. So I rushed back home. We processed through the BT Collins Center out off of Florin Perkins. They in-process you. We rode on buses down to Travis. Our equipment was loaded onto a C5 Galaxy, and we flew to New York City. That time frame's condensed. It took us. We got to Joint Base McGuire-Dix in New Jersey about 11:30 at night on the 11th.
Wow. And of course, all flights were suspended, right? I mean, with the exception of obviously you guys. And
yeah, I remember the pilot coming on, the PA, the general address, and we were sitting up in the crew compartment on the C5. There's about 100 seats up in top, and he said, "Hey, it hasn't been like this since Orville and Wilbur were flying." I guess at one time we were the only plane in the sky, is what he was saying. And so we flew cross country. We didn't have to vector. We flew straight to New Jersey with all of our equipment in the belly of the plane.
wow.
So, and there's other teams with us too. We had picked up Riverside at March Air Force Base. And, they flew with us.
Okay. So you obviously knew that you were going because you were part of, what's the team again called?
It's an urban search and rescue team.
Okay, Urban Search and Rescue. So
Yeah.
you knew already. Once you found out when you were in Santa Cruz, you knew.
Yeah, it was time to get home. Once we knew the planes had hit the buildings and it was not an accident, we knew something would happen, so we started for home right away.
Okay. When you got to the area, what did you do? What was your job? How close did you get? What happened?
I was on a rescue squad. I was working for a more senior captain who's retired now, and he's part of our burn center, and he helps raise money for our burn center. And another captain that I work for in the city fire department who taught most of the classes that you need to be on the team. And I remember I'd been to the World Trade Center, I'd been in the towers before. They had an observatory on the 85th floor. And we walked up to the corner of Church and Vesey Streets, and there was a pile, and that's what it ended up being called by most of the rescuers, was the pile, because it was only about 3 stories tall. It had been reduced from 110 stories to a pile of debris about 3 stories tall. And then we worked our way down into the basements, trying to find stairwells, trying to find pathway trains. There was many other teams there before us, Philadelphia and Massachusetts. New York has their own rescue team, just like ours. So they were all there long before we were there. But we were that second wave or third wave of rescuers. So we were all over both the North and South Tower. We worked a lot in Building 5. And I remember finding things like, I found a person's office. It had come down and was preserved, but in that space he was a Yankees fan, all kinds of Yankees memorabilia in his office, and there was a Tito Puente album that, if you hadn't seen Stripes, I probably wouldn't have known who Tito Puente was at the time, but it made me laugh. And stuff like that happened the whole time we were there. You'd find things that hadn't been touched. The church across the street, the time stopped when the tower came down on the clock on the church steeple. So and that's where they took Father Judge, who was the New York City Fire Department's priest.
Wow.
So
Here, let me just interrupt you for a second. I think this microphone is just rubbing just a little bit.
it's probably that scratchy.
Just a little bit there. Okay. And then if you could just take me back to the office. You found an office and
Yeah. So as we were searching, looking for obviously live people, but then it soon, in days past, in about 3 days, we were starting to look for just human remains. I found an office that had a lot of Yankees memorabilia, a lot of New York City memorabilia, and it had vinyl records in it that had gone untouched, and it was, they weren't melted like you'd expect them to see. But the biggest, most remarkable thing was just the fact that that building had been reduced to a pile of rubble, both buildings.
wow.
So
obviously there was nobody to rescue.
no. Anybody that was rescued in the first couple hours by the spontaneous rescuers or the New York City Fire Department, Police Department, who were right there. So there's other people involved in that, the Port Authority, everybody that's really close to the Port Authority. Police is right there downtown. So.
And when you saw the pile, I mean, I'm sure you knew what the buildings looked like before. I mean, what was going through your mind?
Well, a lot of it went back to training. It was, you see bare steel. The steel is usually covered for fire protection. Concrete, I couldn't find a piece of concrete as big as my hand, and a lot of it had lightweight concrete floors in it. So that had all been reduced to just rubble, maybe a little rock. It'd be about as big as you'd find. And just knowing that there wasn't a lot, just the fact that it had been reduced to that that fine detail of rubble, we knew that it was going to be hard searching.
Go ahead.
In all total, I think we were there 14 days total, and there was about a day of getting downtown from New Jersey to downtown Manhattan, and then getting home. Took a little while to get home, to pack up and get home. So,
right. So in those 14 days, you guys kept searching, or what
yeah,
was?
We kept searching. We moved a lot of steel off of the pile. We worked from the iron workers, the New York City iron workers. We worked with them. We cut steel. They were slinging the steel out, and it was just what we would call select debris removal. So we're taking bigger pieces, calculated pieces. If you've seen pictures of the Trade Center had like tuning forks at the bottom, and the steel was heavier at the bottom than it was at the top. So we cut the steel, and they slung it out, and then we could search a little more each time we moved a piece of steel. And sometimes it was, you'd find a long bone or a piece of a bone, and that was all important. They're still going through and doing with. You're gonna have to cut this piece up, but the genetic markers that they can find now
With the DNA.
Yeah, thank you. So with DNA, they would take a small piece of bone. Now they can. In fact, just this week they were talking about how there's over 1,000 DNA samples left, but they can take a piece of bone, take the chemicals out of it, crush it, and actually get a good DNA sample. So it's a new science that they're putting to some of the people that haven't been identified yet,
Right.
but are lost. You were searching alongside, the FDNY, the New York City firefighters. NYPD was there, and they had all lost close friends and buddies, brothers. So it was difficult. It was emotionally charged the whole time. And I've been to other incidents in the nation, and Katrina, Sandy, Harvey, and they're all emotionally charged. This one brought our country, kind of knocked us on our heels. It also brought us together, though. There was no partisan politics those days after that. Everybody was together. It focused, you had 3 events happen that day. You had the airliner in Pennsylvania, Flight 73. You had Flight 93 go into the Pentagon, and then you had the 2 flights that hit the World Trade Center. And at the end of the day, from coast to coast, our country came together to protect itself and our freedoms. So I think everybody felt that we were threatened, we were scared, and the partisan piece of it was gone. Everybody annealed our country in a few short hours.